Welcome to SBR Sports Picks, hashtag Ask SBR. I'm Peter Loshak. This is the live show that we do every day at 10:30 Eastern Time. Mike Brenner, my normal co-host, is out with a very, very, very well-deserved break. He has no voice. People who watched our videos yesterday caught on that Mike Brenner was giving it everything he had and was about to need a nice big fat rest, and he's getting it today. But we are on with Jeff from BMOCwins.com. Always great to hear what Jeff has to say, and we collectively had a successful day yesterday, Jeff, although what happened with Notre Dame? We were off on that one, though.
Yeah, I don't really know. They're in a tough spot right now, Peter. They're not playing well. Yeah, I mean, they won the game. I believe they covered as well, but first half they came out slow, and that's the problem with first half. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes you wish you had them full game.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Actually, you're right. They did catch. They did. The line shopping was key there because it was 7 most places. Some places at 6.5, and of course landed on 7. All right, so we got a bunch of games here. Let me just pull up the odds here. We got a bunch of NBA games, a bunch of interesting situations, and then the college card. How do you feel about the college card today, Jeff? Because there's a lot of obviously Pac-12 games and stuff like that. I liked a bunch of stuff yesterday. I'm not quite sure if I'm liking so much stuff today, but maybe I'm just not seeing it. What's your take on the college card today?
Yeah, it's not great, Peter. There's definitely value. There's always value on the card. Obviously, it's early. Obviously, lines will move. And, I think as kind of the season goes on, we continue to go back to the old sentiment. If it looks too good to be true, normally it is.
Yes.
I mean, you look at yesterday, and I just want to point this out for some of the amateur people or the people that are just starting out. You look
or even just for me, point it out.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're not an amateur, Peter. Stop.
Yeah.
But, you look yesterday, I mean, Texas won the game outright. I mean, a lot of people would say that was a fishy line. Penn State won the game outright. That was a fishy line. I mean, you look at Kentucky had no shot at covering the game. South Carolina didn't cover. There were just mounds and mounds of games. Villanova didn't cover. It was just favorites did not played well last night. And look, favorites don't generally late in the season get the job done. You got to look at home underdogs. You got to look at, weird lines. I mean, I saw the whole world yesterday, Peter, on Michigan State. How'd that work out for you? It's just we really have to kind of look around. And I know even myself, I was, I had a game last night I was on that kind of, hit me where it hurt. But, it happens. We got to dust ourselves off and move on to the next day. But yeah, I think there's some spots tonight in both the NBA and in college that are probably worth some value.
Yeah, I mean, the Texas one was one of my picks, and I did have the balls to give that one. And the Penn State game, we were all sitting there in the video saying, this is an obvious trap, this is an obvious trap. And we were right, and yet none of us had the balls to go with it officially, right? And the line actually wound up moving up to about 4.5. When that happened, I thought, oh, maybe Maryland was the side.
Yeah, and I think, and I remember you and I were talking. I think that's what we both agreed on. That for me, if I have a line at 3 all day and it just sits there all day, I think probably the dog's the side. But with Maryland, it moved up to 4.5, 5, and I was like, you know what, maybe Maryland is the right side. And I kind of just didn't think much of it, and then it tipped over early, so it was kind of all over the place. But yeah, Penn State was the side. I don't think Maryland's any worse a team. They had to lose at some point. But you got to look out for that stuff. And I think one thing I think you would agree with, if you have a line that just sits all day at the same spot, like a Texas yesterday, something's up. Something's going on with that game. Something doesn't make sense. And, Iowa State was right for the picking after the big win against KU over the weekend.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about some of the games going today that are in a similar situation as far as the line is concerned. Baylor at Oklahoma State, right? Oklahoma State at the bottom of the conference, but they've covered 5 in a row ATS, and Baylor has lost 7 of their last 10 ATS. And Oklahoma State, they already played once this year. They went into Baylor. Close game, lost by 4, covered easily as a 12-point road dog, and now they're a small home favorite against Baylor. To me, I don't know. I mean, it feels like, again, the market is kind of telling you to take Oklahoma State, although maybe this is a spot where Baylor, because Baylor's off of 2 straight up losses, so maybe this is a spot where Baylor bounces back, and Oklahoma State, of course, off of a 2 straight road wins. So maybe this is not a place where we want to take Oklahoma State. That's a tricky one. What's your take on that one?
Yeah, it definitely is tricky, Peter, and I had trouble with it. But you got to remember, I mean, I think the markets and the public they're starting to believe in Oklahoma State a little bit. Kind of that team maybe just sitting there, great at home, 96 points a game. They're averaging. I mean, over the last 5 games, Peter, they've won 5 in a row. They're second in the country in offensive efficiency. But we know Baylor, I mean, kind of a tough spot right now. They're coming off a loss to Kansas State that they didn't look good in. They're still very good defensively. This is really going to be about who's going to be able to establish a tempo that they want. I'm one to believe at home Oklahoma State will do that. The problem for me, though, the line kind of – I think you're right. It kind of is enticing a lot of these public people to take Oklahoma State due to the fact of their success at home. Oklahoma State, short term, I think is a good bet, but if they get to the tournament, I don't know that they'll be very good due to the fact I don't know that they can win on the road. But I'll be honest, I'll be looking at this line long term throughout the day to see where it goes. I almost want to grab Baylor, but I haven't had a great read on Oklahoma State. Seems like every time I bet against them, they erupt for 100 points. So I don't know. I'll look at this one, but it's very tough as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, again, they have cashed 5 in a row, Oklahoma State. And then we have Florida State and NC State. Florida State, obviously a very talented and deep team that we've discussed a bunch of times this year. And on Super Bowl Sunday, that was one of Mike Brenner's big picks. It was also one of mine. I just didn't get a chance to tweet it out. But I love the Florida State against Clemson, and they got a blowout win. Now, though, they're a big home favorite against NC State. Not sure I'd want to take them here. What's your take on that one, if anything?
Maybe you look over the total in this one. I mean, both these teams particularly good offensively. Tempos run high. NC State doesn't play any defense. I mean, you look at it over the last 5 games at least. I mean, 89 points a game. They've just been a sieve lately on the defensive end. But as far as NC State, I don't think they're very good. I mean, they really struggle at times, like I said, to get stops. So Florida State at home this year hasn't lost. They're 9-4 against the spread. They're shooting 52%. Against a defensive team like NC State, I'm not looking to get involved with them, especially against Florida State. This Florida State team has the opportunity most times to really stick it to a team. They could crush NC State tonight. But I'm not in love with the game. I mean, by the way, Peter, I was surprised to see that Florida State didn't come across to me as a great defensive team, but they're actually not bad statistic-wise, and they're allowing under 40% shooting, which is pretty damn good. They should lay it to NC State tonight.
Yeah, NC State has also lost 7 out of their last 9 ATS, so they're not a great team, and also have been losing. And then let me quickly ask you about Arizona against Stanford, right? Arizona obviously awesome this year. They're given 13.5. These Pac-12 big favorite lines can be very tricky. And Arizona, of course, off of the big embarrassing, massively embarrassing blowout loss at Oregon, got blown the F out at Oregon. How do they respond here? Do you think this is a spot where they come back and just want to lay it on Stanford no matter what? Because they already played once this year at Stanford, and they beat them by 40 at Stanford. So is this an obvious no-brainer spot and not be afraid of the big favorite line here?
Yeah, this should be a good spot for them to bounce back. They're they're well-coached, Arizona. I think they were humbled in that game, kind of brought back to the regular level. Now they're hosting Stanford, a team that's only scoring 62 points a game on the road. Arizona's covered 5 in a row against this Cardinal team. Stanford's just ready for the season to end. They're not doing anything unless they can win the Pac-12 tournament. Arizona off a loss, I would definitely look to back them. Line's not bad either. I mean, I thought this would be up like 16.5, not 13.5. So Arizona, not a team that generally wins by 20 plus, but they should be able to dominate Stanford. If Arizona comes out flat here, that's concerning to me.
Yeah. In Stanford's last 5 road games in the conference, they had 1 win against awful Oregon State, and the other 4 were all double-digit losses. So they're clearly not competitive on the road against even mid-range Pac-12 teams right now. All right, Jeff from BMOsleywins.com. In college, there's a couple of plays that I'm liking. We'll get your take on that when we get to that after we hear what you are liking. Is there anything in particular that you think might be worth looking at from the pretty big college card tonight?
Yeah, early on, Peter, I'm definitely looking at a couple here that are interesting. I'm kind of wondering at this point, is Davidson 10 points better than George Mason? I'm not quite sure they are. That line opened 8.5. It's been bet up to 10. Listen, I like George Mason in an underdog role. I'm not a big fan of them as a favorite, but look, they've covered 6 of 8 on the road this year. Davidson, for what it's worth, is vulnerable at times defensively, and if you could score with Davidson, you're going to stay in the game. They only have 2 players, Gibbs and Peyton Aldridge. Those are 2 guys that can really take a game over. But other than that, if you can neutralize those 2, I think George Mason's a good player. The one good thing about George Mason, Peter, they have two guards that can handle pressure. They play well. They're seniors. They're from New York. They know how to, they kind of have seen everything. I think George Mason hangs here with Davidson. I just think this is maybe too many points. I think George Mason in an underdog role is worth the bet a lot of the time.
All right, that's interesting. I did look at that game, and nothing in particular jumped out at me at it. But maybe that means that your side is right, because there's nothing on the other side that I saw. A couple of games that I was thinking about. I was definitely on Ole Miss the last game against Vanderbilt. I liked them at the opener of 7, and now it's down to a 5.5 or 6. Although Bet 365 still has 7 here. I'm seeing it at SBRodds.com. Tennessee. I know this is a team you don't really like to talk about because you feel like they're one of these, and this happens all the time in college sports, particularly. Handicappers, you wind up having a particularly good or particularly bad read on various teams, and you're not too happy with your read on Tennessee. But I'm thinking maybe Ole Miss as a dog has some value. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you like trends here, Peter, there's two that are really sticking out. I mean, Ole Miss has been under Andy Kennedy. They've covered 23 of 30 on the road. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Haven't lost ATS this year on the road. Tennessee, on the other hand, 14 and 25 over their last 39 at home. So, yeah, I think Tennessee. Look, I've made it clear I hate Tennessee. I'm not a big Ole Miss fan either. But again, the way they've covered on the road, the way they've covered. I mean, Peter, 8-1 as an underdog this year. That's pretty impressive. I think I would go with Ole Miss here for sure. I could see this one where it comes down to the wire. Ole Miss may have a chance to win this game at home or on the road. I mean, 6 points looks valuable here.
Yeah, exactly. Tennessee is 4-1 ATS over the last 5, but I took that one on the overnight at 9, and then let me see another game.
What'd you get it overnight, Peter? At
7.
Wow. See, that's why you're the best, Peter. I mean,
no, that's why I sometimes, come out on the right side of line moves. All right, Jeff from BMOCwins.com. A few other games that I want to ask you about. If you didn't have time to look at these, that's fine. But Morehead State, of course, they lost their coach this year, turmoil, but they've actually been quite good. They've covered 5 out of their last 6, and looks like they're turning it around. Murray State has lost 4 out of their last 5 ATS, and I'm thinking Morehead State might just be a better team right now, -4. What do you think about that one? Or is that
Peter, it's interesting. Ever since Sean Woods was fired, they've played really well, actually. Yeah. I'm actually surprised that Morehead's been this effective. Look, Morehead's always a very good rebounding team. They're always going to give you a lot of energy. They're good at home. They've won 8 of 11 at home this year. I watched Murray. I've seen them play a couple times. I was actually on them last week against Belmont. And, they battled. They were there, but they just couldn't get it done. With Murray, Peter, if you watch them, they're very wonky offensively. They don't really have a lot of open sets. They don't play really. They're kind of just all or nothing on offense. Just if there's a shot, they take it. There's not a lot of cohesiveness offensively. I don't know. Maybe over the total, Peter, honestly. I think this one can get into the 160s. Both these teams like to push up tempo, can score. Morehead should get some easy baskets around the rim with all the wing players that Murray has. I'm one to think if this one's kind of under 160, I always like that threshold. I think this one's like an 86, 81 type of game, honestly. But I would actually go with Morehead at home probably, but not in love with the side.
I'm leaning Morehead State there at -4. And then the other two I'm thinking about, definitely Western Illinois +8.5 at Oral Roberts. And I'm thinking maybe about Providence +5.5 at Seton Hall. A few places do have 6. Providence has been very competitive this year, right? And this feels like a game that goes down to the wire. And also, I'm just not seeing in the Western Illinois game why Oral Roberts should be that big of a favorite over them. Do you have anything to say about either of those? If you haven't looked at either of them, that's fine. We can move on.
Yeah, Peter, at this point in the season, I pretty much have seen all these teams, so I don't have a problem kind of talking about them. Western Illinois, I think the one issue you have with them is they are pretty poor on the road, Peter. Oral Roberts, they've actually been better than I thought they'd be this year. I thought with some of the pieces they lost, I thought they'd be a 3 or 4 win team, really. But they battled. They've been, I guess, decent ATS. But that number seems a bit high. Providence, Seton Hall. It's funny I had Butler last night, but I hate the Big East. This is a conference I just throughout the years have never really liked. I don't like the style of basketball. I don't have a big read on that one. Seton seems to always play close games. I'm one to think this one comes down to the wire. Maybe a close 1 or 2 possession game. 5.5 might be valuable there. 1 or 2 others, Peter, and then if you want to talk NBA, St. Louis has been on a nice tear lately, covering some numbers. They've covered actually 7 of 10 in the A10. I know Ian Cameron, our colleague, he likes the St. Louis team. And you got to wonder where St. Bonaventure's head's at, Peter, after that. I know you probably saw that bad beat over the weekend, or maybe you didn't.
Yeah.
That was pretty brutal. And for a team that's 1-7 at home against the spread, against a team like this, maybe they kind of just go through the motions here. St. Louis has played hard lately. Watch them in the coming years. They're going to be a pretty good team in the A10. But
St. Bonaventure did already play St. Louis once this year at St. Louis and beat them by 19. So the matchup might favor St. Bonaventure.
Yeah, it's funny, Peter. This could either be one of those games where they come out flat and don't play well, or they could really blow out St. Louis. St. Louis is blowoutable, as you would say. So it's intriguing. But the card, we have some work to do with some of these numbers, but there are some that stick out. I'll be looking at later. So catch me on my podcast later. Maybe we can update some of these.
All right, sounds good. Well, just to sum up, in college, my plays I'm looking at right now: Ole Miss +6. I'm looking at Western Illinois +8.5. Morehead State -4, and then what was the other one I liked? I can't remember. Oh yeah, Providence +5.5. I think I am liking that one. Not sure about that. All right, let's move on to
a few viewer questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
On college before we go forward.
Okay. All right.
For the hashtag SBR, New Mexico Air Force. You can go quick if you don't want.
Okay, New Mexico Air Force. I did not actually have a chance to look at that at all. Jeff from DMOCwins.com. You have anything about that one?
Yeah, I would definitely be looking at the Air Force there. Just at home, I'm a big fan of them. That's one of those lines, Peter, that I think a lot of the public will look at and say, "Wow, New Mexico, they've been great over the years." They're like pick them at Air Force. Who's Air Force? Yeah, I would look Air Force in that game.
Okay, what else?
Indiana State and Bradley. I was with both from Gabriel. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, I did look at the Indiana State Bradley one, and Indiana State. I kind of have their win over Butler in my head as having them as an idea in my head as a good team. And then after that, they completely tanked, right?
Yeah, that seems like forever ago. I remember. Exactly. There's another one. Gabe I know Gabe. He always has the picking the tough ones. I would actually, Bradley's been decent at home. Maybe you want to look Bradley in this game. Indiana State has really struggled since that Butler win. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, well, maybe that was it. That was their, as they say, that was their Super Bowl, and they were like, "All right, we're done." All right, what else do we have?
Chai Fan 12, Cincinnati tonight.
Oh man, that's a tough one. Cincinnati against UCF. UCF suddenly starting to, despite all the positives from the beginning of the year, suddenly starting to not cover spreads, to lose spreads, right?
Yeah, they I like them at home though, Peter. I've said that before. They just kind of turn it up there. Never lost there. I don't know. They're a tough team to gauge. I mean, sometimes they look great, sometimes they look lost, but they are still very good defensively. I hope their defense can keep them in this one, but it's tough to bet against a team that shoots 52% at home. That defense can look bad real quick against a team like that. That's a tough one. I think that line is maybe a little too high, but every time I think UCF's lines are too high, they get crushed. So another team that's been struggling. But
no, I would lean Cincinnati. They are coming off of 3 straight nice home covers, and UCF off of 2 straight pretty bad road losses. And then before that, they lost by 15.
It's just hard for me to lay 14 in conference with, especially a team that's good defensively, and it's actually pretty good. I mean, Central Florida is not that bad. If this was Tulane, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I think this. I don't know. It seems like a lot of points for these.
It does, but I would be leaning Cincinnati here. Any other questions?
Yes. So you talk Fordham yet?
Fordham, no,
+1.5 from tail the picks.
Yeah, that's another one that I did look at. That is tough. LaSalle, Fordham, of course, both kind of crappy teams in the Atlantic 10, but I have no edge on that one as yet, in my personal opinion. What's your take on that one?
I don't have much on it either. I guess I would. Just because I think Fordham is a little bit more cohesive at home. They like playing up in the Bronx, a good defensive team. I don't know. LaSalle gives up 85 points a game on the road. Peter, last 5 games, LaSalle giving up 52% from the field. I mean, I'm not interested. Fordham at home, underdog might be a good play there.
Yeah, they did beat VCU at home, beat them outright earlier this year. I would lean Fordham, but not betting it.
Hey, if you ever read on the A10, ride with it, because that's a tough conference too. There,
it is for sure. All right, any other questions?
Last one, Miami U.
Oh yeah, that one
from Googie.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's find the line on that one. Miami and Virginia Tech. Miami -7 at home against Virginia Tech. Brigman, do you have anything to say about that one?
No. I mean, I'm not really interested in a team that's 4-12 as a favorite. Miami's played better lately. But have they really? I mean, they're 2-3 in their last 5 ATS. I don't know that I believe in them right now. Virginia Tech can score, shoot a high percentage. I'll be honest. I think Virginia Tech can go in there and win the game. I think if you like Virginia Tech, maybe take them on the money line. I mean, Miami is 3-8 ATS at home. I mean, I'm just not
they've
interested.
both been bad, but I think Miami is they both lost like 6 or 7 out of their last 9 ATS, so both have been overvalued recently. I kind of agree with you, Jeff. I'm like, if I was going to take Virginia Tech here at all, I might take them, on the money line because they were a 7-point road dog at Clemson and did go in and got the win. So it feels like they're either going to get lose by double digits or 15 or 20 or get the win.
It's funny though, Peter. Maybe we're getting too greedy here because the funny thing is Miami's 10-2 straight up at home, but 3-8 against the spread. So this is a game that they'll win but not cover. So we might be getting a little too greedy by taking the money line there. I just know they don't cover. So maybe Virginia Tech's the right side as far as the points are concerned there.
Yeah, kind of two inconsistent teams that I don't really want to touch as of right now. All right, so let's move on to the NBA. Definitely some interesting stuff. I guess the first one, I don't know how closely you follow the NBA, Jeff, but the Miami Heat turning it up, and they're now the 10-0-1 ATS over their last 11, just covering game in and game out. And Milwaukee kind of the opposite. They're coming off a big blowout win and cover, but before that, they were just losing most games. I think they had lost 8 of 9 ATS or something like that. So huge two teams that with starkly different big discrepancy there with their recent ATS results, Miami at Milwaukee. I do have a play on this one, but it's not on the side. Jeff from BMOCWins.com, what's your take on that one?
I mean, Peter, you look at Miami against poor defensive teams on the second half of the season that allow 99 points or more a game. 10-0 against the spread. That's pretty impressive. Been on fire offensively, 115 points a game. I'm going to guess you're on the over here, Peter, if I'm
That's correct. I'm on the over. I'm all over it. 209.5. Yes.
Yes, I would actually ride with the Heat. Why not? Keep riding the hot hand here. How about Dion Waiters? He's become a cult hero in Miami. How about that?
Yeah.
If you look at their team, they don't look good on paper, but yeah, they've been getting it done. I don't know that Jason Kidd's an NBA coach. I don't. He might be in over his head there, but yeah, over looks good too. I mean, why not ride that? Miami's been on fire.
That might be my top play of the NBA card. And then Cleveland, Indiana is an interesting game. The Pacers suddenly, they made a lineup change. Mike Brenner and I talked about it in our NBA show, and they've kind of turned it around. They've covered 5 out of the last 7. They're 5-1-1 ATS over their last 7. Cleveland's also covered 3 in a row. Indy's also playing great D under in 7 of their last 8, and I think I'd be leaning under here. As far as the side is concerned, Mike Brenner might have a good read on this one, but it's going to be a pass for me as far as the side. What's your take on that one, if anything?
Yeah, obviously we know Cleveland, always a very public team. Indiana's actually covered 8 of 9 against the Cavs, which is pretty impressive. Look, Peter, until Cleveland plays some defense on the road, they're giving up 108 points a game on the road and allowing 47% from the field. You mentioned the lineup change. Whole world's going to be on Cleveland tonight. You might want to wait for this one. You might get some extra value as far as the line concerned. I would go with the Pacers nonetheless. That 8 of 9 is impressive.
Yeah, I would lean to the under. And another team that's turned it around recently, also making some tinkering with the lineup, is the Lakers, right? They've covered, I think, 5 or 6 in a row, something like that. They're getting 7.5 at Detroit, and Detroit's also been playing well recently. They've been playing more aggressively, but in this one, I'd be leaning Lakers plus 7.5 and the under at about 217, even though the Lakers have had some explosive offensive games recently. I still would be leaning under in this one, and definitely taking the points with them. What's your take on that one, Jeff?
Yeah, good point on the under, Peter. I think Detroit, for what it's worth, a good defensive team, especially at home, giving up under 100 points a game. I got to be honest, I actually probably would lean Detroit here. The Lakers are a poor road team. They're giving up 112 points on the road. That's disgraceful, really. It's interesting, this league anymore. There's no defense played. Peter, I don't know if you saw last night. Did you see that kid, the kid for UCLA, Lonzo Ball? You know him?
Yeah. What up, 92, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that just goes to show you that even at 15 years old, no defense is being played in any of these. And the kid, no one plays defense anymore, Peter. What happened? What happened to him?
What happened is people know where their bread is buttered. You play tough, great defense, strong defense. People are like, yeah, I'm not seeing the value, to be perfectly honest. You put up 90 points, you're getting paid, and that's what the kids want to do. Absolutely. If I was an NBA player right now, I would, run up the points as much as I could, and I would play zero defense. And if my coach asked me to play defense, I'd play defense for about 15 seconds and then stop, and then make him ask me again if he wanted more defense. Hey,
crazy,
just the way the world is, right?
Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
All right. Anything else from the NBA that's caught your eye, Jeff?
All of a sudden, Peter, the Sixers have gone back to the abyss, it seems like. They're giving up a ton of points per game. I'll be interested to see what Kawhi Leonard's status is tonight. I get the feeling no Joel Embiid again tonight. He's been kind of on the shelf lately. Spurs might be a good play at home. This Sixer team, all of a sudden, almost kind of lost in a way. Another one, look at the Bulls. I mean, I'm never really a big fan of a big number with Golden State for whatever reason. I feel like the Bulls can hang here, especially with, they've been able to really score a ton lately, 113 over the last 5, covered 4 or 5. Maybe the Bulls hang here, but we know the Bulls' inner struggles with their team.
As we know, the Golden State in general has been a team that covers, first half, sometimes quarters, but full games, they've actually been not that good. ATS. All right, do we have any questions from the NBA or
Ninja, Knicks and Clippers. Clippers -2 seems a little strange.
Oh, yeah, it does seem a little bit strange, and that's why I looked at that one, and I was like, I'm going to look into this a little bit more in depth before I decide what I think about it. Definitely looks a little bit strange. What do you think, Jeff?
What game was that, Peter? I'm sorry.
Knicks and the Clippers. Clippers at home. Knicks at home.
Definitely looks strange. I might be looking to grab the Knicks there for whatever reason. I'll see where the line goes. Obviously, public going to like the Clippers here. Knicks, kind of the team you always laugh about and all that kind of thing. But maybe I'll look with the Knicks here. Peter, one I wanted to point out, I'm not sure how much you've watched the Kings, but without DeMarcus Cousins, they're a hideous basketball team. I mean, they're really bad. There's no team that depends on a player more than them. I believe he's out tonight, suspended. The Celtics should be able to go in there and lay the wood against them.
Even at -8, yeah. I mean, to answer your question, I don't watch the games that much because I don't have time. But I do believe there can be, especially in certain situations, great value with watching the games. Absolutely, no question about that. So I wish I did have time to do it. And I always like to hear the input of people who do watch, their specific teams. And that tends to happen with people who are, home fans of certain teams, and so they do watch. That's why they have a unique, valuable insights into those teams. So you think that even at -8, Boston might be worth a shot? I mean, it's a big line.
Yeah, I definitely do. I think, listen, like I don't watch a lot of the Kings. I just remember they were in Philly one time and I watched them. They're extremely dependent on DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, 28 and 11 a game. I mean, of course they're going to be dependent on him. I mean, but I think he dropped 50 in that game and they lost. So it just kind of goes to show you, how bad they might really be. Yeah, Boston playing well. I think they, without Cousins, I think they get crushed.
All right. Well, my top play in the NBA, I would say, would be Miami, Milwaukee on the over, and probably on the first half as well. What's your top play in the NBA, Jeff? If you have one, you can pass if you don't have one you really like.
Yeah, I would go with nothing. Listen, Peter. I'm going to tell you this, and I'll quickly tell the NBA viewers. Sure. The way I bet the NBA is I wait till 15 minutes before the game, and I fade the public. I mean, that's kind of what I do. I mean, it seemed to pay dividends. I'll wait to see. I'm not a big NBA guy. I enjoy it as a fan, but I always look for spots. That's kind of my
I do the same thing. Not that I fade the public, but most of my plays and picks do come, the hour before tip-off for sure. All right. Is that about it? Should we wrap it up?
That is it.
All right. Jeff from BMOCwins.com. Thanks so much for all your thoughts. And I believe we'll be talking to you one way or the other tomorrow as well. Looking forward to it, Jeff. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter.